My brother sneered and said, "Smart people like me make money through intellectual work. If you're only doing manual labor, it proves you're not very smart." I went pale and the friendly smiles of my in-laws froze. My husband firmly said, "We are proud to be farmers." My father laughed and told me, "Just to be clear, you're no longer part of our family. You're marrying a poor farmer who has to work hard. From now on, we're treating you like you don't exist. If you come asking us for money, we don't want to see you anymore." Even though I was disowned at 18, I already knew I was on my own. Still, I tried to stay polite, though it was hard with the pitying looks from my in-laws and John. On the way home, I cried quietly and decided to forget about my biological family. Time passed quickly and 18 years went by. My emotional wounds healed completely. I had 2 children and my days were busy but fulfilling. Although I had mostly erased my memories of my parents and brother, I had moved on with my life. I found out from a cousin that my brother was getting married. My cousin and I have always been close and stayed in touch even after I got married. I once sent them rice from our farm, which they liked so much they kept buying it. We kept in touch and chatted on the phone about once a month. My cousin mentioned that we might meet at the wedding. I hadn't heard anything about the wedding from my parents or my brother. Since we're not on good terms, it makes sense that I wouldn't know much. I heard that they are building a new duplex and wondered if it was finished. My cousin knew about the strained relationship between me and my parents but seemed to think I would still attend family events. After the call with my cousin, I impulsively tried calling my mother's cell phone, but I got an automated message saying the number was no longer in service. I tried calling my father's number next, but got the same message. I didn't have my brother's number, so I couldn't call him. With shaking hands, I dialed the landline for my family home, and it connected. My heart was racing as I waited for someone to answer. When my brother answered, I said, "Hi, it's Amy. I heard you're getting married and moving. I wanted to congratulate you." Before I could say more, my brother cut me off yelling, "You don't need to do anything. You're just a farmer and a stranger to me. Don't call me again." Then he hung up the phone. I tried to call my brother back, but I found out that he had already blocked me. It felt very harsh. Even though he hated me, we were still family, and it hurt to be rejected like this. Seeing how upset I was, my husband asked gently, "What's wrong?" I couldn't hold back my tears and told him about the conversation. Both my husband and my in-laws were just as angry as if it had happened to them. My mother-in-law reassured me, saying, "You're part of our family now. We care about you." Her words made me cry even more. I wished she were my real mom because she cared about me more than my biological mother ever did. My father-in-law also comforted me, saying, "You're happy now, and that's what matters. The person who lasts wins." My husband added, "Let's use this as a lesson and make sure we don't act like that." Even our children, not knowing the full situation, hugged me tightly. I thanked everyone and felt a deep warmth in my heart. Even though I didn't have a supportive biological family, I was happy with the family I had now. Things took a big turn when my business was featured on national TV. My in-laws were large-scale grain farmers in the American Midwest, growing many fruits and vegetables. A lot of their produce didn't meet quality standards, so I used my food business knowledge to sell slightly damaged fruits and vegetables by making jams, juices, and pickles from them. Backed by the local farmers union, my online business became very successful. It became popular with moms who wanted safe, locally produced food for their children and with seniors who liked homemade pickles. I built the company with other women who married into farming families and unemployed young people. It grew into a $5 million business. Our success was covered in a detailed TV report. After the broadcast, we got a lot of attention and calls for orders, business deals, and interviews. The company phone and my personal smartphone wouldn't stop ringing. So when I received a call from an unknown number, I answered it without thinking. To my surprise, it was my brother. I guess my brother saw the TV news about my business success. He called me and after a quick greeting said, "I'm thinking of starting a business. Can you lend me some money?" I was shocked and said no. I felt a strong urge to reject his request firmly before hanging up. But he called again, demanding money and shouting, "If a woman like you can start a business and make money, I should be successful too. You mean nothing to me anymore. Don't ever set foot in this house again." My father yelled these words at me, and my soon-to-be husband, John, stood by my side, supporting me. I left my family home in tears, and this happened right after I graduated from high school. My name is Amy, and I'm now a 36-year-old farmer. This year marks 18 years since I left my family home. As I think about it, the time I've spent living my own life is now longer than the time I spent at home, which makes me feel emotional. I grew up in a city where my father worked a corporate job. and my mother was a stay-at-home mom. Our family of 4 included my brother, who was born a year before me. My parents always treated my brother as more important since he was the heir. He got better meals and grander birthday presents, and he would often brag about being superior to me. I felt lonely and cried out for attention, but my parents never changed, so eventually I gave up. Things took a turn in the summer of my second year in high school. My brother was stressed out, studying for college entrance exams, trying to get into a top university, but his mock exam results were poor. He took out his frustration on me and my parents, treating him like he was fragile, gave him all the care while piling household chores on me. They wanted to lower my grades so that my brother wouldn't feel bad, which didn't make any sense. Around that time, a teacher told us about a rural experience program at school. It was a 2-night, 3-day trip where students could stay on a farm, harvest vegetables, cook together, and experience country life. Feeling troubled by my family situation, I decided to go for it, even though my father objected, saying, "Farming is for fools who can't get corporate jobs," and my mother mocked me, asking if I was crazy for wanting to do manual labor and get dirty. But I stood my ground for the first time and used my saved pocket money to sign up. It was the best decision I ever made. For someone like me, starved of love, the experience was incredible. Working in the fresh rural air felt refreshing, and I got to feel the warmth of a real family. John, the eldest son of the farm family, was a year older than me, the same age as my brother. At first, I was cautious around John, but he turned out to be kind and firm, totally different from my brother. He got along well with his parents and was kind to me too. John's parents were gentle people, and even though it was just for 3 days, I cried a lot when it was time to leave the farm. John's mom cried along with me and said, "You're welcome back anytime." I promised her that I would definitely return. Since they didn't use their cell phones much, I started writing them letters regularly. Soon, I began receiving more letters from John, and it turned into a kind of diary exchange. Eventually, we started dating. It was a simple long-distance relationship without even a kiss. After my brother failed to get into his top-choice university and ended up at a less prestigious private college, I became a college applicant. But my parents pressured me to get a job instead of going to college. They said it was because women didn't need an education, but the real reason was probably that they didn't want me to go to a better college than my brother. Since the rural experience, I had dreamed of becoming a farmer. I could become a farmer without going to college. But since John was now a college student and had moved to the city, I decided I wanted to go to college too and learn about modern farming. With a clear goal in mind, I studied hard every day despite interference from my parents and brother. However, when I passed the university entrance exam, my father was furious. He shouted, "Are you, a woman, planning to go to a better university than your brother?" My mother added, "We don't have money to spend on you. Your brother needs it, so you should work and bring money home." I was devastated by their words. After a huge fight, I decided to cut off all ties with them. John came to pick me up, and his parents, who are now my in-laws, supported me financially, allowing me to attend college. 4 years later, I married John. During my college years, I never contacted my parents or brother. But when we were planning the wedding, my in-laws insisted, "We have to at least let them know about the marriage." So we visited my childhood home for the first time in 4 years. Right after graduation, things were hectic, and it was also planting season, so we couldn't make the visit until early summer. When we arrived, my in-laws, John, and I all had sunburned faces from working outside. But my parents and brother openly mocked us. My mother asked, "No offense, but how old are you? You must be really poor to be working outside and getting so dark like this." I was very embarrassed. "Please stop, Mom," I said quietly, but she ignored me. I thought it was ridiculous how he acted like he deserved money, especially since he had once said I was a stranger to him. I didn't respond to him but asked something that had been bothering me for a while. I said, "Who decided not to tell me about the move?" My brother replied, "It was my wife. She's from the city, and when I mentioned you, she said we should cut ties." I didn't want to hear more, so I hung up and blocked his number. I realized that my brother's wife seemed to have the same attitude as my brother and parents. A few hours later, I received another call from an unknown number, and it was my father. He asked angrily, "Why are you the boss now? Did you steal a man's job?" I explained, "John and my father-in-law are in the farming business too. It's normal for large farms to be incorporated. My father-in-law is the president of the local agricultural association, and John is the president of his own company." Maybe my explanation helped because my father then said, "You've become distant. Why didn't you contact us?" I was stunned and replied, "You're the ones who disowned me." Then I hung up and blocked his number. A few minutes later, my mother called. She demanded, "Why aren't you sending money to your brother? You're making $500 million a year, you should send us some. Don't forget all the favors we did for you. At least send us $300 million or at least $250 million. My mother was the most aggressive of all. Even though the business generates $500 million in total revenue, that amount includes expenses and salaries, and I barely have any money left over. I exaggerated a little about how much money I had, and my mother immediately called me a liar, saying it wasn't true. I was getting frustrated with her constant demands for money. I told her I wouldn't send any money whether I had it or not, because we were strangers now. Then I hung up and blocked her number. I thought that would be the end of it, but I was wrong. My parents, my brother, and his wife, whom I had never met, showed up uninvited at my in-laws' house. My father said, "Hey Amy, guess what? I'm taking back the disallowment." I was shocked by how desperate they were for money. My mother-in-law asked them, "What on earth are you doing here?" My father-in-law and mother-in-law were glaring at my parents in silence, and the employees around were watching with stunned expressions. My brother, not understanding that he wasn't welcome, said, "We're family by blood, so we have the right to your money." My brother's wife nodded in agreement, which made me furious. Even though we were related by blood, there was no real emotional connection. They had treated me like a stranger and abandoned me. This brought back old emotional wounds, and I was close to tears again. At that moment, John came over and stood beside me. "Amy is now part of our family," he said firmly. "Even if you hadn't disowned her, we are perfectly happy. Please go home." His defense of me made me feel better, and the employees also started criticizing my parents. My brother got angry and started yelling, "Shut up, you country bumpkins. You're all uneducated trash. Just do what we say and be quiet." John calmly replied, "Both my father and I are Ivy League graduates, and Amy graduated from a well-known agricultural university." When my brother heard this, he was surprised and shouted, "Why are you farming even though you graduated from top universities?" John answered coolly, "Farming is a respectable profession. We use what we learned in college every day." Seeing the situation unfold, I felt a burst of satisfaction. My brother had lost to John in every way. I managed to laugh and felt a bit relieved. Maybe I was too afraid of my brother and parents. I decided to be clear one last time, we are strangers now. I paused, then said politely, "I can't lend or give money to strangers. Please leave. If you cause a fuss or act violently, I'll call the police and take legal action." I made our separation clear. My in-laws and husband moved closer to protect me from any trouble my parents and brother might cause. I was deeply moved and felt truly cared for. The employees also told my parents to leave. My parents, brother, and sister-in-law glared at us in anger but couldn't say anything more and eventually left. Later, I heard from my cousin that my brother and parents tried to get rich quickly by starting a business with debts. Their arrogance led to a big failure, and now they are close to bankruptcy. Since we're no longer in contact, I have no intention of getting involved. As for me, my work is going well, and I'm surrounded by a supportive family, a loving husband, and wonderful children. I cherish each day and enjoy my happiness.